Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Big Reset Conversation. In this series of interviews, we explore what are the new ways of doing things and what are the challenges and opportunities after the global slowdown as a result of the coronavirus outbreak. Some of the major topics we've put on the agenda of the Big Reset are how to use the situation to switch to more entrepreneurial mindset and create innovation, how to strengthen the position of Bulgaria as a product innovation hub. And this leads me to the reason why I've invited my guest today. Several months ago, he reached out to us with an article he had written about building meaningful products and nurturing entrepreneurial mindset regardless of whether you are a first-time founder, a serial entrepreneur, or working in a corporate environment. His name is Vesko Kolev, and he is the Vice President of Product at Progress in Bulgaria. And without further ado, I want to welcome him to the stage. Hi, Vesko.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you? How are you doing in these strange times?
Never been better.
Yeah, well, about to start the big reset journey right now, and that's actually the reason we are here. But before we dig deeper into the entrepreneurial mindset, I mentioned I want to put things into a bit of more context. So we all know the big story of 2014, Progress acquiring Telerik, turning it into a big success story for the local ecosystem. And we've been talking about that a lot ever since then. But in a way, I have the feeling that we are not talking enough about what happened with that company and those people that turned part of Progress. And I actually wanted to ask you to walk me briefly through the journey of the company ever since then.
Mhm. That's a wonderful question that I have to summarize 6 years. Thanks for it. So, in Telerik, our mission and motto has always been deliver more than expected. So, for us, an acquisition and the actual acquisition has never been just a transaction. Yes, it was great success, as you said, for the community and for the ecosystem. But at the same time, it has never been just a transaction for us. We want to be the force that helps Progress be more successful. And since the acquisition, I think that we've managed to integrate very well the two companies. And I think the state that we are in is a testament of that. Basically, our customers are more happier than ever. Our teams and people are more engaged than ever. I think the business is in a better position than ever. So to me, the whole journey was, on the one hand, moving the culture of both Progress and Telerik to the next level. Because as part of Telerik, we're part of a startup and then scale up. And it is one thing to be there, but when you move to the next level, which is an enterprise, especially a big US company that is publicly traded on the US stock exchange, it's like the next level. It is very interesting probably for the audience to share that a lot of things that have been started in the Telerik days have been amplified and improved further. For example, the culture of delivering more than expected has always been and still is our guiding star. And I think that this influenced Progress also as well.
What you actually just missed in that story, and I think it's quite important, is that from a Bulgarian company here, it turned to one of the key R&D centers for Progress on global scale. Mm-hmm. Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that we are a great example of a company that can have strategic product development and go-to-market strategy created, fostered, developed in Bulgaria. And that's awesome.
And yeah, definitely that's awesome. But has something changed ever since? You said, yeah, a lot of things have upgraded in a way, but has the mindset of the people changed? Like in the first case, you are part of a Bulgarian company and you're proud of developing something like a footprint in your own ecosystem, and then you're part of a big corporation. Does it change somehow? Has the mindset of the people changed?
Mhm, mhm. So we are still part of the local national proud is still there. The products that we built, because they are created here, the ideas are like discovered here, and the strategy is built here. It's our products at the end of the day. So on that aspect, we didn't change that like pride. Even further, I think that before at Lyric, our goal has always been to serve our customers, right? And to help them be better and excel. And this hasn't changed. In the past, we had like investors. Today, we have like investors on the stock exchange. So it's it's like the same, very similar environment, but at the next level. In terms of the scale, I think that the complexity and the amount of people that are working on the business hasn't changed dramatically. We're structured as a company in a separate business units which are um, separated based on the specifics of the different businesses that they're in. And for example, the traditional Telerik business, which I'm part of, is pretty much the same. It feels the same. You just have slightly different players in terms of, let's say, again, in the past it was your investors. Today it's your board, your investors, your CEO. So the names might be different, but the roles are very similar. Whether the mindset has changed, I think that we've continued very aggressively to employ the growth mindset. And probably you've heard about about this concept of fixed versus growth mindset, and we are very well into the growth mindset. And because all the dynamics of the market are also evolving, the game there is becoming more and more complex, right? It requires us to be very how to say it, very focused, and we have to learn a lot of things and practice a lot of things. We cannot just stay and do nothing. You know what I mean? It's like you have to develop yourself and up your game daily. So in my view, the fact that we are part of that company accelerated the growth, both of the people, both of the business, and everything related to that.
This fixed versus growth mindset has been a topic of previous conversation as well, and I think it's quite interesting to explore it a bit more in corporate context, because people usually don't think that corporates, because progress is a corporate structure, even though it's a super cool and innovative one, and people don't expect that from corporates.
So it's interesting because the first time when I've heard about this concept, when I get to know it, and if you allow me, I'll try to quickly explain what it is to make sure that we have one and the same understanding of it. So this concept has been developed by a professor of psychology called Carol Dweck. And she distinguishes between two types of mindset, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And the essence of the distinction is how those different types of mindset perceive intelligence. The fixed mindset perceives intelligence as a fixed trait. You are as smart as you have been born. While the growth mindset perceives intelligence as something that you can develop. So what is the actual result of that thinking? When you're with the fixed mindset, and when you make a failure, what this means? I made a failure, I'm as smart as I am, therefore I cannot do anything about it, then I'm failure. So failing means I am failure. While the growth mindset, on the other hand, says, I failed, but that's an opportunity to learn. So it's like a completely different view of the world. And it has a lot of consequences in all walks of life. It's very important to be aware of that concept in your capacity as like spouse, as your capacity as parent, in your capacity as a colleague at work. So it's not, I think, It's not related to startup scale-ups or anything. It's related to everything. In the context of an enterprise, as you referred to us, I think it's very important to understand that we, as an enterprise, are comprised by different subgroups that have different products that target sometimes one and the same audience, sometimes different audiences. But from an employer, from the employee's perspective, from the team's perspective, we're entrepreneurs. One set of entrepreneurs are the ones that are outside, called like startup owners or people that work in startups. We're like corporate entrepreneurs, but the essence of the entrepreneurship is one and the same thing. So that's pretty much it. If you behave as like one big thing that you don't account for the competition, you think that you are like rich and so on and so forth, there is a point in time that inevitably the destiny will come at you, right? But if you're humble, yes, you have enough like confidence that you're putting the effort and you're ready to put that effort, whatever is important, and you're humble at the same time, then it doesn't matter whether you're a corporate or startup, if that makes sense.
It does definitely. Well, entrepreneurial mindset and being entrepreneur, growth, and all those things are as much as cliches that we all use as the word innovation. And having in mind that you are actually an innovation hub for progress in a way, I would wonder, what do you think innovation actually is, and what does it mean in your particular context? Because that's a word we all use and it doesn't mean much.
Yep. So that's a very, very interesting and very important question, not only for us, but I think for each company. And I think it's very important for every company to have a very good mental model or conceptual model about things like this. What means innovation for us? We just think three types of innovation. And they are sustaining innovation, disruptive innovation, and efficiency innovation. And again, as a reminder to the people that might not be aware of those concepts, sustaining innovation in essence means how to make good products better, how to make additional products for your existing audience. There you have the market, you have the competition, you have the audience. Most of the time it's about listening to your customers, listening to the market, and executing. At the same time, disruptive innovation is the innovation that creates new markets. It's the innovation that provides access to products that weren't previously available for certain audiences and markets. And it has the power to start small at the bottom of the market, but through the time it becomes better and better in terms of capabilities that it has the power to disrupt existing businesses. So this is basically the second type of innovation that we have. And the third is efficiency innovation, which means how to be able to serve the same customers with the same products, but with less, so that you can invest more in the first two. Basically, we acknowledge the fact that things that were relevant yesterday and are relevant today are not what will make you successful tomorrow. So this means that we are very clear with ourselves that we have to continuously develop our playbook, right? And continuously ask the question, okay, where is the money tomorrow? Not where is the money today, because that is the actual question. And in practice, this results in a continuous process where we learn, we practice, we share this knowledge between each other. And when you are part of our team, and that's one of the great things about being part of companies like ours, is that you have the visibility to, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 10 different initiatives that are running at the same time. And there are a lot of experiments that are happening across those. So it is very easy to get access to all those like results that you can leverage in your context. You know what I mean?
Maybe a bit more elaboration for the audience. Can you like give examples of those experiments you're conducting?
Yeah. So if you think about what are the challenges into building up, so we are talking about products, right? Not outsourcing, like products. When you think about what are the challenges of creating successful products, there are challenges in the different stages of the product. It first starts with an idea, right? How can you have great ideas? The first question. Then once you have a good idea, how to validate it, that it's so good. So it's like the problem discovery and then validation. And then once you figure out, okay, the idea is good, who is the ideal customer? Where you should start from? And then how to discover a solution for that problem or need or pain or want. And then how to scale that. Like once you have the product market fit, how to scale that. So we have experiments in all of those. For example, we have products that are being produced as sustaining innovation in our existing audience, but we have products that are targeting adjacent audience. So sometimes when you produce a product that is within the .NET community, as an example, or the .NET ecosystem, we have great brand power there. Telerik is like, you know, one day, if you come with me at a conference with a green T-shirt, you understand what Telerik means for the .NET audience worldwide. But when you go to an adjacent audience, you don't necessarily have the ability to leverage the brand power of this brand. So you have to build your brand power and to find a way to communicate your product, your offering. So it involves like things like branding. It involves things like advertisement, like demand generation, search engine optimizations, and so on and so forth. So that's one example of a great set of challenges. And by the way, a lot of companies in the local ecosystem are having like challenges with pretty much the same set of questions: how to bring my product to market in a more effective and efficient way. So another example is, let's say, our UniteUX product, which basically is an effort for disruptive innovation, where we try to create a market that doesn't exist today. So those are like two examples, but we have more of those. There are a lot of technologies that are coming from Microsoft. We have products outside of our division that are, for example, we have a chatbot solution and other stuff that is going on in the company. But the whole point is, if you have structured way and models for the different parts of the product development and the go-to-market, then you have the ability to accumulate knowledge which can be shared beyond the specific product or effort that you're doing. And I think that's a very, very critical thing that we should all appreciate as a very powerful thing, because I believe that this will be the way to significantly improve the success rate of the companies that are built and are about to be built in the local ecosystem, if we manage to share those learnings.
You're speaking about something like a playbook, as far as I got that. Can you share some key learnings from your experience as a company? Because the whole reason we are doing that with the Big Reset and you participating in this game is to like leverage on what we know and help the local ecosystem make the next step. And you have great examples and great learnings of how things could be done. So could you share some?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very broad topic, very big one. Probably we can talk hours on it. But let's see. I think that the first and most important thing is for companies to appreciate the difference between those three types of innovation. You cannot make disruptive innovation by using the processes that are suited and created for sustaining innovation for your existing products. You have to have completely different mindset. As an example, when you are in a sustaining innovation mode, you have clear customer, you have clear asks from them. It's about execution. If you try to apply the same processes in disruptive innovation, you will fail. Why? Because in disruptive innovation, you have to understand that whatever you're doing, if it is a disruption, it's unknowable by definition. So you have to discover it, right? And instead of having like roadmaps of plans and so on, you should have planning that is oriented around discovery and learning. So if you see, I'm a company that is disrupting the world and I have this 12 months of roadmap, I'll never invest in you. Why? Because that's impossible. And it depends on your scale, because if you are part of a big company, it is very important to explain to the executives, let's say like me, that this is different than the other one. And otherwise you'll be asked to deliver things that are impossible to be delivered. Given the market size, it's impossible to give market sizing when the market doesn't exist. But if you don't know what are the right questions in the right context, then you fail. So if I have to conclude this like first like advice from the playbook, make sure that you understand what is the game that you're actually trying to play and what are the rules. And one thing that we appreciate very much, like, and it's part of our culture, I would say, you know, for whatever reasons, data is available only for the past, right? And the question for everyone is how to predict the future with high probability, right? How to pick your moves in a way that increases your chance for success. And that's the whole purpose of science. It helps you predict that when you throw this mouse up, it will fall down, right? And we're employing science for all those things subconsciously. But I think that we have to appreciate that science is the only way, and the structured knowledge, science, and the models that stem from those is the only way to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. And I think if you talk with every entrepreneur, he or she will tell you, my goal is to just repeat it, right? Like every successful entrepreneur, I want to repeat it. I want to prove to myself that it wasn't an accident. Like I want to myself and to the world that it wasn't an accident. The way to make it on purpose is by employing science. So that's the other thing that I would like to emphasize to the audience. The third thing, and this will be the last, not that there aren't a lot others, but the third thing will be the mindset. Make sure that you really employ the growth mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, great. But you just said understanding the game you're playing and employ science to understand it even better. And we are right now in a very strange situation where predictability is quite hard. And I don't know whether someone understands that game.
Mhm.
What would be your advice in such a situation? How does it change the game for you as a company as well?
Yeah. So I guess you're talking about the COVID situation, right? So unfortunately, COVID impacts a lot of us in different ways, both professionally and personally. But I think to your second question, how it impacts us as a company. Fortunately enough, our processes are designed in a way that they're distributed by design, because inevitably there will be a person on your team who will be on the other side of the globe. So we didn't have any significant challenges in distributing fully the company to work from home. Our roadmaps are on time and so on and so forth. To your to your first question about actually how you can predict what will happen. I think that there are a few things that people like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and others are using, which are way of thinking. So we're also trying to employ it as much as we can and practice it. So I think that employing principles first thinking and the concept of second order thinking helps in those situations a lot. But before employing such things, I think it is very important for every individual and company to basically think about how they will look at the current situation. You know the famous like quote about the lemon and the lemonade, right? When life gives you lemons, make a lemonade. So I'll use another angle of similar quote that I know from Vasil Terziev, one of the founders of Telerik. Um, Pain or setbacks are inevitable, but suffering is a choice. So it's like having those like the lemonade and the suffering. The best question I think every one of us should ask themselves is, what is this unique situation providing us as a chance? What is it? And how can we leverage it in a good faith, right? To make something useful. I think it's not enough to ask yourself how to survive. I think the question should be more ambitious. How to get out of it stronger. You know, at the end of the day, and this is a cliche, but I think that if people think about it, they realize that it's very powerful. You are as big as your dreams. So I'll paraphrase it and say, you're as big as your goals. So set goals that are big enough to inspire you and the team and try to achieve them even in those circumstances. And appreciate that for, on the one hand, there are challenges, but on the other, there are opportunities. And we all know that good entrepreneurs are the ones that are able to, again, leverage such situation in a good faith. I'll just start it again this one.
So, Vesko, we are talking about challenges, but also opportunities all the time. And given the current COVID situation, a lot of trends are accelerating and new trends are emerging as well. Many sectors will digitize, and we may come better from the crisis as it all was in the beginning. But what does it mean translated in the context of the local ecosystem? Is it probably now the right time, and is that crisis going to catalyze this ongoing transition from an outsourcing to a product-oriented ecosystem?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So this is actually one of the things that are very near and dear to my heart. I think that it is one of the most important things that we have to achieve as an ecosystem is to make that transition from an outsourcing destinations to a set of product companies. And the reason for that is very clear. We have to find a way to unlock further the potential that we have and to leverage this potential in the best possible way. And while the outsourcing era, if you will, was something that played its role and helped us to get where we are, I think that going forward we should find that other path and move to that other path, which is instead of just selling people that are working, create and sell IP. And instead of having like linear margins that are linear to the amount of people that you're employing, to move to products, off-the-shelf products that are providing opportunities for exponential financial growth. And whether right now is a good time to accelerate that, I think that it's always the right time, if that makes sense. But today I'll repeat myself from earlier. I think that there are two perspectives that individuals and companies can employ in this situation, and about the results and of this COVID situation. You can either look at it from the perspective of this is like the worst time in the world, we'll die and bad things will happen or go bankrupt, or you can look at it with humbleness and curiosity and ask yourself the question, how can I use or leverage this situation in good faith? What is the unique thing that this situation provides me with? And that's one of the questions. The other question that I think is very important for the entrepreneurs to ask themselves is, what are the new jobs to be done that the companies or individuals are looking to find a tool or a product to employ for, but they are unable to find such? right? This is one of the most important questions that if people ask that question and look around themselves, they will see, they will potentially see a lot of opportunities for products. The other thing that's like has two sides is probably some of the outsourcing companies right now struggle. Probably they don't have what how to fill in the time of their employees. So on the one hand, they can say, "Oh God, this is the worst time in the universe." One way of thinking. The other way of thinking is, "Listen, up to now, we're delaying that transition toward product becoming a product company just because we had enough cash flow to live a good life. But right now, that changed. Why don't they use that as a motivation to make the step now?"
Right. Well, thank you, Vesko, for sharing your vision about the direction in which the ecosystem should be moving, and also for giving some very actionable and practical advice to outsourcing companies who might be willing to experiment with own product innovation as part of their own big reset and the big reset of the ecosystem. And for everyone else who wants to join the big reset wave, make sure to follow our channels and the great content that we are creating as part of the big reset conference between the 11th and 14th of May. Stick around, don't miss what Progress are doing, because they're one of the organizations in Bulgaria that are super committed to bringing this ecosystem to the next level of product innovation. And we'll make sure we will be updating you on some of their initiatives in the next episodes. Stay with us and see you soon.